We're going to be ranking bows today. I'm looking at a coral reef because it's beautiful and because I'm on light mode unapologetically. So, couple of things to talk about. Stink bow exists. It's a thing now. It's in the game. And I figure, since I've been updating some of my tier lists, some of you guys have been enjoying it, hanging out in the stream with me, Twitch link down below, queuing up some Ben's War Cries, I figured I would take a look at my old list. And this is the final standings. And I thought about this and I thought, okay, obviously our S tier bows should be where they are, but I think I've really come around to the Cloudburst. I think some of these weapons are a little too high, some are a little too low, some can't be low enough, and the stink bow exists as well. I'm seeing like 7 good reasons to take a refresher. So here we are. Thank you, Archer. He updated this before I even had the idea to re-record this. Let's rank the bows in Fortnite. So there are 13 of them now, and they're honestly kind of amazing. I also want to give a little PSA to everybody that I have been experimenting with a lot more Toy Rockin' Out builds. I've embraced it a lot more than I did in the past. I used to use Blast in the past in a lot of my videos just for consistency, and I never really valued how strong Toy Rockin' Out can be. And something else I've discovered, if you guys have seen my double crit damage, vacuum tube bow, xenon bow, and powder keg bow videos, I have found that Rabbit Raider is like hugely better than Farah in the lead. She is amazing, excellent hero. If you're running bows, she needs to be in the build somewhere, but with the crowd clearing capabilities of the Cloudburst, xenon bow, and vacuum tube bow, not necessarily in that order, Stoneheart Farah doesn't really need to be in the lead. 3 instead of 5, 20% instead of 60s, not that bad. And she actually, seeing as it's a crowd clearing perk, does nothing for you in terms of single target damage. So, little PSA, you should still check out my best bow loadout video down below if you guys want to see some suggestions, but nowadays in the modern era, Rabbit Raider and Toy Rockin' Out is kind of the way to go. Still should have Farah in support though. Also, little factoid for you. Saurian Might, even without Blast in the Past, actually, on average, does more damage than Skull Ranger. I call her Thick Skeleton Lady because I always forget. She gives you 15% for 5 seconds after reloading. That's great. Use it if you want. But this, on average, if you're full health, should actually be more damage than her. So, you know, it's just kind of a way to optimize your bows. All right, now that we've optimized our loadout, let's rank the top bows in Fortnite. I figured all that was relevant, so I hope you enjoyed that. All right. Let's get the S tier out of the way. I will use this just to set a standard for how Beast ranks things. I take S tier very seriously. I've been doing this with my updated tier list, and I'm doing it here today. In my opinion, S tier weapons can do it all. There is no holding back whatsoever. S tier weapons have amazing single target damage and amazing crowd clearing. I don't necessarily factor cost effectiveness for every weapon. It's kind of pick and choose depending on how important it is. Like, I know in my rockets tier list, I famously put the deatomizer quite a few stages lower than you'd expect. And that was intentional because it's crazy expensive and outclassed by everything nowadays. Think of one thing the deatomizer is best at. Oh wait, it's not clearing buildings. It's not the Storm King. It's nothing. It's nothing. So anyway, that's what S tier is. Best of the best. It can do it all. And that's actually why I'm kind of moving the Cloudburst up. I've used it a lot since then. Its damage is kind of crazy. It hits really hard, does amazing single target damage. That Steam Cloud mirrors its damage. So it's basically hitting the enemy over and over and over and over. And if you're shooting through a tunnel or a choke point up a little bend with like a little ramp, naturally speaking, you can get those scenarios a lot. It can it can lock down a choke point very effectively, and it's really, really good. And don't let me forget, that Steam Cloud can activate Farah's perk on top of it, and so can the Chain Lightning. I know that this was added to the game where her branching, actually, I think I have you know what, I'm gonna go find the picture. All right, I went upstairs and got this off the refrigerator. So what they added to Farah is that when you hit an enemy, it branches 5 times, but when you Chain Lightning, each and every one of those activates her perk as well, and that applies to the Steam Cloud from the Cloudburst. It's just a super strong weapon, well deserving of S tier, and that's why I re-record these videos. It totally happens that I overlook some of the qualities of these weapons, and as time goes on, my recommendations change. So let's go back from the bottom. Stink bow at the very last. I'll show you. I'm gonna make you guys wait for where it should be. So Boom Bow. I believe I put this in C tier last time. It is the only bow. Okay, so the Stink Bow, we don't run it with reload by option, but the Boom Bow is the only bow in the game that doesn't have a reload perk. However, it can be any element, which is kind of a big deal. You'll notice 2 of these up here can't. And its explosion is pretty small, but it's pretty strong. So I feel like if you're running this with, you know, crit build, Toy Rockin' Out, you're giving it all the help it needs, A tier is pretty generous, and I think that's fair. It's actually pretty strong. It's pretty slow firing, but it's worth the wait. And yeah, I see AS407 in chat saying it can be 4 crit rating. Never, ever do that. Double crit rating is never recommended, even if you're running Zenith. It's still not worth it. Compression Burster is kind of like the Boom Bow, but less damage and more impact, which is not very useful in regular missions. I'm going to put it down in C tier. I'm not trying to refer to my old list as much. I don't really think it has a place in the current bow meta. I don't know. I think C tier is very fitting. So I also put a few of these bows, Scrapshot, Night Owl, and Instigator. I put these, I think, in B tier last time. They are essentially single target only. Seeing as the Compression Burster does have a bit of crowd clearing capabilities, and the single target damage is okay with these weapons, I still think C tier is where they should be. Now, the Scrapshot and the Night Owl, or no, the Knights, what is this? The Knights something? Am I completely forgetting? That's usually a bad sign. If I forget the name of a weapon, that's a bad deal. But I believe they are mirrored of each other, and this is driving me crazy. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to go find it. Aha, it's the Nightfire. So the Nightfire and the Scrapshot, I believe, are identical. It's just the Scrapshot is cheaper. Or it's the Instigator, but I believe these weapons have very similar stats. So I'm tiering this very specifically. The Compression Burster has some crowd clearing. These other ones don't. The Instigator, when you charge it up all the way and hit an enemy, it takes more damage from other sources for a while, which can be really helpful, but it doesn't work against mini-bosses, which is like the only time you'd want that, and it doesn't work for the Storm King, which is the only other time you'd want that. So you're really not doing much with this. Smashers go down super fast nowadays with the Plasmatic Discharger, and regular Mist monsters are usually dying in one hit from these kinds of weapons, so I just don't see any use for that whatsoever. And yeah, I feel like the other ones are so similar that it doesn't make a difference. Night Owl, we used to put it in F tier. I can't really go lower than that, and same with the Love Song. Both of these weapons are slow firing. Well, I guess they're average firing, I guess, but their draw speed's a little slow, so they're slow firing, high single target damage, some of the hardest hitting in the game in terms of bows, but there's no crowd clearing whatsoever, and it just sucks. I feel like, okay, the Night Owl can crowd clear. If you get a couple of eliminations, it activates the 6 perk, which booms a bunch of enemies, and as we've found with some of my recent videos, you can do a ton of damage with that. It's still not enough to justify it, and I don't love it. I don't love it. So I'll put it above the Love Song, to be fair. I know Archer was being silly putting a whole Night Owl tier, but I don't think it's that strong. Powder Keg, I put this fairly low because the explosion is not that great. But again, I've embraced totally rocking out a bit. Maybe that's cheaty, but it can be any element. It can have reload. It can explode in a wide area. It might not be doing a tremendous amount of damage, but it's a lot of enemies at once. It's okay. It's all right. I don't think it's seriously an A tier weapon, but if I refer last time, I think it was kind of high C tier. I think high B tier is fitting nowadays. I think it's a lot better than I thought, and it's still not amazing, but it's definitely a contender if you're looking to just have some fun with a bow that you haven't used in a while. Vintertech Seeker, I believe, is locked to energy. It is the hardest hitting bow in the entire game. If you charge this thing up, it'll have those 3 extra arrows or 2 extra arrows, whatever it is, and they will seek towards the target and do a ridiculous amount of damage. It's a lot. It's a lot. However, no crowd clearing. You can hit several targets in one shot, but you're gonna have to wait for it, and I don't know. I just don't think it's that amazing. However, its tremendous single target damage kind of carries it. I believe I placed it in A last time. I don't really see that it's better than the Powder Keg, though, so I think low B tier. It's being carried by its damage, but I don't really know that it warrants much higher than that. So here we are. Ben's Warcry, timed well. Thank you, Chrissy. Twitch link down below. Once again, come hang out with me while I record the Stink Bow. Where do we put it? Now, in my video, I titled this, not clickbait. I really did do 4.7 million damage. That is a quirk with the Primal Weapons. Primal Weapons will just randomly do a ton of damage. When I introduced the Primal AR, I made a video saying that this is impossible because it was. We were doing all the math we could, and it was topping out at 500, maybe 600,000 damage. Then we were hitting for 1.6 million. What? And that's true with all the Primal weapons. Their first shot just does a ridiculous amount sometimes, and that happens on the bow. However, it happens rarely. So it can have S tier damage, where it nearly, oh my god, if 4.7 million was 4.9 million or 4.8.5 million, it would one-shot a 250 power level Smasher, and that would be nuts. That would be nuts, but it doesn't. And its Stink Cloud does a ridiculously low amount of damage. So Yeah, it's really good single target damage. I honestly don't think it's better than the powder keg. Its crowd clearing is technically there. The stink cloud exists and it does damage to the enemies around it, but it's not a lot of damage. And I feel like it needs to be buffed. So to future-proof this video, if it's doing steam cloud level of residual damage of the cloud, S tier easily. It could be any element besides energy. That's fine. S tier easily. If its stink cloud does half the damage that I would hope that it has, still A tier. If that stink cloud is actually eliminating basic enemies and chunking mist monsters, top of A tier, maybe still even S tier, just to future-proof this video with any future updates. However, in the current state of the stink cloud, I'll be fair and give it mid B tier. I don't think it's in tight competition down here, so I think B tier is fine. Its single target is good. There were plenty of times throughout this video I showcased where I was absolutely one-hitting 250 power level, not smashers, mist monsters. I got there. Blasters, takers, flingers, they will die very quickly, but that's not the only thing you need. So there you go. There's my 2023 update to the bow tier list. Very well timed, as we just got a brand new bow, in case you didn't hear. And there it is. If you guys want to see more of these, comment down below. Let me know what you want to see. And if you want to see other stuff, just vote with your views, because I know you guys have been really enjoying these updated tier lists, and it's kind of fun to revisit some of them, not all of them. So I've just been sorting by most popular and kind of like checking some of these boxes. And if you guys want to vote with your clicks, that's enjoyed as well. So yeah, if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Twitch link down below. Once again, I'll see you guys later, and take it easy.